The city was loud in the way only late afternoons could be. Engines idled, horns snapped, conversations blurred into a constant, restless hum that never quite stopped, only shifted shape. People moved with purpose, eyes forward, lives intersecting without ever touching. And in the middle of it all, Emma walked alone. She kept to the edge of the road, one hand gripping the bottom of a cardboard box that had already begun to soften from the light drizzle. Her scrubs were wrinkled, faintly stained, the pale blue fabric clinging slightly where the rain had settled in. She didn't rush, didn't look back, didn't cry. Most people did when they were fired. Emma didn't. The words still echoed in her mind, not because they hurt, but because of how predictable they had been. Insubordination. Failure to follow directive. Unauthorized medical intervention. The administrator had said them cleanly, like he'd practice. The charge nurse hadn't even looked her in the eye. And the chief surgeon. He looked relieved. That part stayed with her. Not anger, not frustration. Relief. As if removing her had solved something. Emma adjusted her grip on the box. Inside it, her life had been reduced to fragments: her badge, a chipped coffee mug, folded spare scrubs, a photograph she didn't remember taking. 5 miles home. She'd walked farther. On worse days. The thought slipped in quietly, and she shut it down just as quickly. That wasn't who she was anymore. Behind her, through glass doors and fluorescent light, the hospital carried on without her. Monitors beat. Stretchers rolled. Voices called out in controlled urgency. And somewhere inside, in trauma room 3, the man she refused to abandon was still alive. For now. Emma exhaled slowly, her breath steady despite the weight pressing against her ribs. She knew the moment everything had changed. It wasn't when the patient came in. It wasn't even when she saw the wound. It was when she recognized it. Not a street injury. Not random violence. Pattern. Precision. Intent. And beneath it all, something else. Something wrong. The fever curve hadn't made sense. The neurological delay hadn't matched the chart. The others had called it sepsis. She hadn't. She'd seen it before. Just not here. And when they told her to transfer him, she didn't move. Some instincts don't ask permission. A horn blared. Emma stepped farther off the asphalt, boots sinking slightly into wet grass as the drizzle thickened into something steadier. The cardboard box sagged. A photo slipped loose. She caught it before it hit the ground. For a second, she stared at it. A version of herself smiling, relaxed, almost unrecognizable. She tucked it back inside, then kept walking. The road stretched ahead, gray, endless, ordinary. Until it wasn't. At first, it wasn't a sound. It was pressure. A low, deep vibration that didn't belong to the street, or the traffic, or anything civilian. It settled into her chest. Then her bones. Emma stopped. Around her, others noticed too. Drivers leaned forward. Windows rolled down. Phones lifted. The hum deepened, became a roar. And then, the sky broke. 2 matte black Navy helicopters tore through the cloud cover, descending fast, deliberate, impossible to ignore. They didn't circle. They didn't hesitate. They dropped. Directly onto the highway. Tires screeched. Cars locked in place. Someone screamed. Rotor wash exploded outward, flattening grass, rattling metal, shoving air hard enough to stagger people where they stood. Emma's box ripped from her arms. Contents scattered: badge, mug, fabric spinning across asphalt like debris after a storm. She didn't chase them. She didn't move at all. Because she already knew. This wasn't random. Soldiers hit the ground before the helicopters fully settled. Not police. Not military. Their movements were sharp, controlled, purposeful in a way that didn't belong to chaos. One of them, tall, scar running across his cheek, stepped forward, scanning the crowd with precision. You saw her. Everything about his posture shifted. Looking for a nurse, he shouted, voice cutting through the roar. Emma felt it then. Not fear. Recognition. The soldier moved closer, slower now. More certain. His voice dropped when he spoke again. That's her. No question. No hesitation. Just confirmation. Emma's chest tightened not from panic, but from something older. Something she had buried. They weren't here because of what happened today. They were here because of who she used to be. The soldier stopped a few feet away. Close enough to see the rain on her face. Close enough to see that she wasn't shaking. "Ma'am," he said, quieter now. "Were you at Mercy General?" Emma nodded once. "Did you treat a patient brought in at 0207? No identification?" "A pus." "That?" "Yes." The soldier closed his eyes briefly, like a weight had just settled into place. He keyed his radio. "We found her." "That? Then bring her in." Emma bent down, picking up her badge from the wet pavement. The soldier crouched beside her without hesitation, gathering the rest of her things with unexpected care. "You're cold," he said, handing her a thermal blanket. "I'm fine. You're coming with us." Emma straightened, gripping the edge of the box. "Why?" It was the first word she'd spoken since being fired. The soldier met her eyes. "Because the man you saved." He paused. "Not for effect? For accuracy. Asked for you by name." Emma's stomach tightened. And he added, voice quieter now, edged with something like respect. "He outranks everyone who told you to leave." The helicopters thundered behind them. The city held its breath. Emma looked toward the aircraft. At the insignia. At the shape. At something she hadn't allowed herself to think about in years. Then she pulled the blanket tighter around her shoulders. "I don't work there anymore," she said. The soldier's expression didn't change. "You do today." "Oh, wait. Huh?" Emma stepped forward. As she approached the helicopter, she caught her reflection in the dark metal. Rain-soaked. Exhausted. Still steady. Still ready. Behind her, strangers whispered. Phones recorded. A moment was already becoming something bigger than itself. But Emma didn't look back. Because she already knew. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. The helicopter lifted before the doors were fully sealed. The city dropped away beneath them, streets shrinking into lines, people into movement, noise into silence. Inside, the world was reduced to vibration, wind, and the sharp metallic scent of machinery pushed to its limits. Emma sat still, harness tight across her chest, hands resting loosely in her lap. She didn't ask questions, didn't look around, because she already understood something the others didn't. This wasn't a rescue. This was a correction. Across from her, the scarred soldier watched quietly, not evaluating, not doubting. Waiting. As if whatever came next belonged to her. "You bet?" he asked over the headset. Emma didn't hesitate. "Always." The word slipped out before she could stop it. The soldier's eyes flickered recognition again, but he didn't press. He just nodded. Below them, Mercy General came into view. From the outside, it looked and changed. Nostro. Riti. But as the helicopter descended toward the rooftop, everything shifted. Staff had already gathered. Security. Doctors. Administrators. All drawn upward by the impossible sight of military aircraft landing on civilian ground. The moment the skids touched, the illusion of control shattered. Doors burst open. Boots hit metal. Orders were given fast, quiet, absolute. Emma stepped out last. The wind hit her first sharp, cold, carrying the smell of rain and fuel. Then the silence. Not real silence. The kind that happens when people don't know what they're allowed to say. A path opened without being asked. She walked through it. Inside, the hospital felt strong. Not broken. Not chaotic. But tense. Like something invisible had taken hold of the air. Elevator doors opened. A line of uniforms stood waiting. Among them, one man in a suit. Administrator Hale. The same man who had fired her less than an hour ago. He looked like he'd forgotten how to breathe. What is this?" he stammered. No one answered him. Because no one needed to. The soldiers moved past him. Emma followed. and for the first time, Hale stepped aside for her. The elevator ride was short. Too short. When the doors opened, the ICU hallway stretched ahead. But it wasn't the same hallway Emma had walked earlier. Nurses stood still. Residents froze mid-conversation. Even the machines seemed quieter. Waiting. Emma didn't slow down. Where is he? He asked. In ICU 3, someone answered quickly. But she was already moving. The doors opened. And there he was. The patient. Fell. Surrounded by machines that couldn't agree with each other. Numbers flickered. Alarms chirped, not loud enough to panic, but enough to warn. Duh. All of it. Emma crossed the room in seconds. Her hands moved before anyone else spoke. Checking pulse. Adjusting a line. Reading the monitor, not just the numbers but the story behind them. Behind her, footsteps approached. The chief surgeon. Dr. Letty. You shouldn't be here, he said sharply. You've already. He stopped. Because the patient's eyes opened and locked onto Emma. Not confused. Not searching. Recognizing. You came back, he rapped. Emma didn't look surprised. I told you I would. A faint, strained smile crossed his face. They tried to move me. I know. His gaze shifted past her, toward the others. Something darker flickered in his expression. He looked back at her. Don't let them. Emma adjusted the Roman 4 line. You're not going anywhere. Behind her, Dr. Lanning cleared his throat. This patient is septic, he said, louder now. We are following established. No, Emma said. She didn't raise her voice. Didn't turn around. But the room shifted again. You're not, she continued. That got attention. A resident frowned. What do you mean? Emma finally looked up. His labs mimic sepsis, she said calmly, but it's not infection. That's absurd, Lanning snapped. We right. Look again. Silence. Reluctant. But real. Emma stepped aside slightly, pulling up the chart. Liver enzymes are off pattern, she said. Neurological markers are delayed, not degraded. The resident's expression changed. Slowly. Confusion turning into doubt. This isn't bacterial, Emma finished. Oh, it? What is it? Someone asked. Emma didn't answer immediately. Because she already knew. And saying it out loud would change everything. Before she could speak, another voice cut through the room. She has authority. Everyone turned. A man in uniform stood at the doorway. Older. How? The kind of presence that didn't need volume to command attention. Hale stiffened. Doctor, Lanning blinked. Excuse me, the administrator said. The man stepped forward. His insignia said enough. She has authority, he repeated. Over him. Silence. Absolute. Emma met his gaze. A small nod passed between them. Not introduction. Recognition. Doctor, she said quietly. In another life, he replied. Behind them, the patient shifted again. Ballet. Enough. They're still arguing, he muttered. Emma almost smiled. Not for long. She turned back to the bed. Her voice changed. Charter. Focus. I need atropine and pralidoxime. The room froze. Dr. Lanning stared at her. Those are nerve agent antidotes, he said. Ness? That's reckless. Emma met his eyes. So is letting him die because it doesn't fit your protocol. Hale stepped forward. This is completely unacceptable. Get her what she needs, the uniformed man said. No hesitation. No debate. A nurse ran. A resident followed. The room began to move. Not around rank. Not around authority. Around Emma. She leaned closer to the patient. You are exposed, she said quietly. Something synthetic. His lips barely moved. I figured. Your body's fighting something that isn't supposed to exist, she continued. Pause. Then, softer. You're still here. A faint breath of a laugh. You always talk like that. You always show up without ID. The medication arrived? And Matt didn't wait. She administered it carefully, precise, controlled. Every second mattered. The monitors reacted immediately. First, chaos. Numbers spiking. Dropping. Arguing. The slow. Stabilizing. Heart rate lowering. Blood pressure rising. Breathing evening out. The room exhaled. Doctor, Lanning stared at the screen. Then back again. That's not possible, he whispered. That it what? Emma stepped back, only then noticing the cold still clinging to her skin. The exhaustion waiting just beneath the surface. But she didn't show it. Instead, she needs isolation, she said. No transfers, no unauthorized access. That's not your call, Lanning snapped, weaker now. It is today, the uniformed man replied. Hale's composure cracked. This is a civilian hospital. The doors opened again. More soldiers entered. Not aggressive. Not loud. But unmistakable. Phones went dead. Hall was cleared. Control shifted completely. Emma leaned down one last time. You scared them, she murmured to the patient. His eyes flickered open. You saved me. I stabilized you. Pause. Don't be dramatic. A faint smile. Really? Real this time. Emma straightened. And finally, she looked at the people who had fired her. The ones who had dismissed her. The ones who had assumed she was small. Close the curtains, she said. No one argued. Because now, they understood. The nurse they sent walking home was never just a nurse. The hospital had changed. Not visibly. The walls were still white, the lights still hummed overhead, monitors still blinked with artificial calm. But beneath it, something had shifted. It wasn't just tension. It was awareness. Like the building itself had realized it was no longer in control of what happened inside it. Emma felt it the moment she stepped out of the ICU. Eyes followed her. Not the dismissive glances from before. Not irritation. Not indifference. This was different. Meyer. Curious. Careful. The same people who had ignored her hours ago now moved slightly out of her way without realizing they were doing it. Respect, she thought. We fear. Sometimes they looked the same. She leaned briefly against the hallway wall, letting her breathing settle. Now that the urgency had passed, her hands began to shake. Just slightly. She curled them into fists until the tremor stopped. A nurse she didn't recognize approached her cautiously. Are you military? She asked quietly. Emma exhaled. They're saying a lot of things, she replied. Which wasn't an answer. And that was intentional. Before the nurse could press further. No. The voice came from behind. Emma turned. A soldier in fatigues held out a tablet. His expression was tight. Professional. But underneath it. And sir, you need to see this. Emma took the tablet. Grainy security footage flickered to life. A hallway. Staff moving normally. A vice. Older. Charter. But unmistakable. Emma's stomach dropped. Not fear. Recognition. The kind that doesn't fade with time. They found us fast, the soldier said. Emma didn't respond. She didn't need to. Because she already understood what that meant. This wasn't random, he continued. Someone tipped them off. Pause. Someone inside. Emma closed her eyes for half a second. And in that brief moment, the past cracked open. Then, the metallic scent of blood and dry air. Voices she hadn't heard in years. A name she refused to say out loud. When she opened her eyes, the hallway returned. Oh yeah. Controlled. Set. But she knew better. Not him, she said quietly. The soldier frowned. You know who that is? Emma handed the tablet back. He wouldn't come like that. Then someone else did. Another voice joined them. We have a bigger problem. The uniformed officer from earlier stepped forward. His tone had changed. Less controlled. More urgent. We believe this isn't contained, he said. If they know he is here, they'll come again, Emma finished. Not a guess. A certainty. The officer studied her. You've seen this before. Emma didn't answer. Because the answer was obvious. She looked through the ICU glass. The patient lay still. Stable for now. They won't hit the same way twice, she said. What are you suggesting? Emma's eyes sharpened. We move him. The officer hesitated. That's risky in his condition. So is leaving him here, she replied. This building is a beacon. Of it? The officer exhaled slowly. You're suggesting extraction. I'm suggesting survival. Before he could respond, a crash echoed from somewhere below. What? Violent. Not accidental. Every head in the hallway turned. The shouting. Running footsteps. A radio crackle. Security breach. West stairwell. Possible impersonation. Emma didn't wait. She was already moving. Lock the ICU, she called over her shoulder. No one in or out. The officer turned to relay the order. But Emma was gone. Moving fast. Precise. Like she'd done it 1,000 times before. The stairwell door slammed open as she reached it. A man in scrubs burst through from below. Too fast. Too focus. God. Emma saw it immediately. The posture. The eyes. The hand diving into his pocket. Yeah, she shouted. The gunshot cracked through the stairwell. What? Deafening. Concrete splintered where her head had been a fraction of a second earlier. Chaos erupted. Security rushed in. Voices shouted commands. But Emma was already moving. Not toward the threat. After it. The man turned and ran upward. Boots slamming against concrete. Emma followed. No hesitation. No fear. Just calculation. Distance. Uppy. Angles. He was fast. But sloppy. Panic showed in his movements. At the next landing. He slit. Just enough. Emma closed the gap instantly. Her shoulder drove into his back. The impact sent him sprawling forward. The gun skidded across the floor. He tried to recover. Too late. Security flooded in behind her, pinning him down, wrenching his arms back, snapping restraints into place. The man screamed. Not in fear. In frustration. In failure. Emma stood still. Breathing controlled. Heart steady. Watching. Always watching. As they dragged him away. Something caught her eye. A tattoo. Half hidden beneath his sleeve. Her stomach tightened. Because she recognized it. Not from here. Not from this life. From before. From a place she had buried. If too deep, she thought. She turned away. The stairwell felt smaller now. Colder. Like it remembered something she didn't want it to. Behind her, the officer approached. You okay? He asked. Emma nodded once. He wasn't here to kill anyone, she said. The officer frowned. Then why? To confirm, she interrupted. Confirm what? Emma looked back toward the ICU. That he's alive. Oh, it? And that I am? The officer's jaw tightened. We underestimated how fast they'd move. Emma didn't disagree. You underestimated how loud hospitals are. They walked back together. Inside the ICU, the monitors chirped steadily. The patient stirred. Eyes opening. Focus. Despite everything. I heard running, he murmured. You heard wrong, Emma said calmly. Go back to sleep. He didn't. His gaze shifted between her and the officer. They sent a scrub, he said quietly. Emma nodded. They're adapting. A faint exhale. They always do. The officer stepped closer. Extraction is ready, he said. We can move him in 10. Emma shook her head. Not like this. We can't keep him here. I know. Then what's your plan? Emma met his eyes. They know patterns, she said, not people. He frowned. Explain. They'll expect a rooftop extraction, she continued, or a convoy. A pause. So we don't do either. Realization flickered. You want to disappear him. I want to move him like a patient, she corrected. Because that's what he is. The officer hesitated. Not. I'll need clearance. You have it. He glanced at the bed. The patient exhaled slowly. She's right. That was enough. Orders were given. That's precise. Within minutes, the roof erupted again. Helicopters. Movement. Noise. A perfect distraction. Inside. Silence. Emma prepped the gurney herself. Checked every line. Every monitor. Every detail. No talking, she said to the small team around her. We move on my count. They nodded. They trusted her, even if they didn't understand why. The hallway stretched ahead. Clear. Too clear. A moot. Steady. Controlled. Invisible in plain sight. Halfway down, a resident stared at them. Confused. Suspicious. Emma didn't look back. At the service elevator, the doors opened. A nurse stood inside, smiling. Too quickly. Which floor? He asked. Anna didn't move. Her eyes dropped. To the woman's shoes. Too clean. Too new. Basement, Emma said. The woman reached for the panel. Emma moved. Less? Her hand snapped around the woman's wrists. Twisting. Controlled. Precise. A blade clattered to the floor. The smile vanished, replaced by something colder, more honest. Security arrived instantly. The woman was restrained, fighting, spitting words in a language Emma hadn't heard in years, but understood perfectly. The elevator doors closed. Silence returned. The patient's voice broke it. You always see them. Emma didn't look at him. I learned the hard way. The elevator descended. And with it, the last illusion of safety. Because now, this wasn't just about saving a life. It was about surviving what came next. The basement smelled different. Less sterile. More mechanical. Oil, concrete, damp air sounds echoing instead of absorbed. It felt removed from the hospital above, like a separate world stitched beneath it. That was the point. Emma guided the gurney forward without hesitation. Every movement controlled. Every step deliberate. Waiting in the shadows was an ambulance. Unmarked. Engine off. No flashing lights. No noise. Just there. Ready. The back doors opened. No chatter. No wasted motion. They loaded the patient quickly. Carefully. Emma climbed in with him without being asked. She didn't trust handoffs. Never had. The doors slammed shut. A second later, the engine turned over. Quiet. Controlled. The vehicle pulled out, merging into the back access road like it had every right to be there. Like nothing unusual had happened. Inside, only the soft rhythm of the monitor, the faint hiss of oxygen, and Emma's steady breathing. Her fingers rested lightly against the patient's wrists, counting, not just pulse. Pattern. He opened his eyes slightly. You're still here, he murmured. I said I would be. A faint, tired smile. They never listen to you, do they? Emma adjusted the Roman for. Not until it matters. A pause. They'll try again. I know. Outside, the city began to thin. Buildings gave way to longer stretches of road. Fewer lights. Fewer witnesses. Emma noticed immediately. Her eyes flicked to the rear doors. Then forward. to the small window separating her from the driver. "This isn't the route," she said. No response. The engine continued its steady hum. Emma's pulse didn't spike. It slowed. "Focus." "Driver," she said, voice calm. "Pull over." "Nothing." The ambulance accelerated slightly. That was enough. Emma stood, one hand steadying the gurney. The other braced against the wall as she stepped toward the cab. "You're not authorized for this route," she said. Still nothing. "Huh?" The driver spoke. "Huh? Du kan." Orders changed. Emma's jaw tightened. She knew that tone. Not military. Not trained. Contractor. Detached. Professional in a different way. "Pull over," she repeated. No. The word was simple. Let. Final. The monitor chirped softly. The patient shifted, unaware of the danger unfolding around him. Emma reached for the radio. That? Of course it was. The ambulance picked up speed. The road outside had changed completely now. Dark. Narrow. Duh. And that moved. No warning. No hesitation. Her arm hooked around the driver's shoulder, yanking back hard enough to break his posture. The wheel jerked. The ambulance fishtailed violently. "Oh," the driver snapped. "You'll kill him." "That's not what you were hired for," Emma shot back. He elbowed her ribs. Pain flare. "Ciao." Immediate. She didn't react. Didn't slow. Her forearm drove forward, crashing into his throat. The ambulance swerved again, clipping the edge of the road. Gravel sprayed. Tires screamed. Huh? A violent stop. Silence. For half a second. Nothing moved. The back doors were ripped open. Blinding light flooded in. "Hands up." Real voices this time. Commanding. Controlled. Military. Emma raised her hands slowly. Not out of fear. Out of awareness. The driver was yanked from the seat. Forced to the ground. Restrained in seconds. Evident. Precise. The. Emma stepped back from the opening, blinking against the light. Shapes emerged. Familiar. The same uniforms from the hospital. Oh. The officer. He stepped forward. Expression tight. Not anger. Something else. "You okay?" he asked. Emma nodded once. "He tried to reroute us." "We know." His voice hardened slightly. "He won't be doing that again." Emma didn't look at the driver. She looked back at the patient. The monitor was changing. "Settle." "The road." "He is crashing," she said. The officer turned immediately. "Oh." Another vehicle pulled up beside them. Not an ambulance. Armored. Unmarked. Prepared. They transferred the patient fast. Plainer this time. No mistakes. Emma climbed in again. Of course she did. The door shut. The vehicle moved. This time, deadlit. The gear. Silent in a way that meant control had returned. Emma's hand returned to the patient's wrists. Pulse irregular. Weakening. She adjusted the oxygen. Checked the line. Calculated. "You called it," the patient murmured faintly. "They're not done." "No," Emma said quietly. "They rarely are." The vehicle slowed. Then stopped. They had arrived. The facility didn't look like anything. No signs. No markings. Just steel. Concrete. Silence. Inside, everything was ready. Too ready. Like they had expected this exact outcome. The patient was moved into a room that wasn't quite a hospital room. Not quite military either. Something in between. Functional. Controlled. So, for now, Emma stayed until the monitors stabilized again. Until the numbers stopped trying to drift. Until the danger passed. Temporarily. Only then. She stepped back. and exhaled. For the first time in hours. You should come upstairs. The voice came from behind her. The officer. Matt didn't turn. He's stable, he added. Command wants to speak with you. Command can wait. It pause. He won't. Matt glanced at the patient. His eyes were open, watching her. You'll live, she said. A faint smile. Because you're here. She didn't respond to that. Instead, she turned and followed. The hallway above felt colder, quieter, more controlled than anything she had walked through that day. 3 people waited inside the room. 2 in uniform. 1 in a suit. The kind of suit that didn't ask permission. The man stepped forward. Ma. She didn't react to her name. We need to talk. You need to listen, she replied. A flicker of interest crossed his face. Fair. Emma crossed her arms. You let a compromised driver take a critical patient, she said. We underestimated the breach, he replied. You underestimated me. Silence. Cow. And him, she added. The man nodded slowly. Noted. Emma held his gaze. And the hospital? A pause. Carefully measure. The situation is being handled. That's not what I asked. Another pause. Longer this time. Your termination has been voided, he said. Your record cleared. Emma didn't react immediately. But something shifted. Demaw. Internal. And if I say no? He asked. If you refuse involvement? He didn't hesitate. Then we protect you another way. But it will be louder. Emma understood exactly what that meant. Exposure. Attention. The one thing she had spent years avoiding. She glanced toward the door. Toward where the patient lay. Toward everything that had followed her back into this life. You didn't walk away before, the officer said quietly behind her. Emma closed her eyes briefly. Images surfaced. Ones she had buried. Ones she had survived. Ones that had never really left. She opened them. On my terms, she said. The man in the suit gave a faint nod. Of course. And just like that, the decision was made. Not to return. Not fully. But not to run either. Because this time, Emma wasn't disappearing. She was choosing where to stand. News didn't break. At least. Slow at first. A whisper here. A blurry video there. 2 black helicopters landing on a civilian hospital rooftop. Armed personnel moving through emergency corridors. Phones losing signal. A fired nurse brought back under military escort. No names. No confirmation. Just enough truth to make people ask questions and enough mystery to make those questions spread. By morning, the city was watching. By afternoon, the country was. Inside Mercy General, the atmosphere had shifted again. But this time, there was no illusion left. No one pretended it was a normal hospital day. Clusters of staff whispered in corners. Administrators moved faster than usual, voices low and urgent. Legal teams had arrived. And the board. The board was in full containment mode. Emma walked through it quietly. Same as Scrubs. Same pace. Same calm expression. But nothing about how people reacted to her was the same. Conversations stopped when she passed. Some people looked away. Others watched her with something close to disbelief. As if they were trying to reconcile 2 versions of the same person. The rookie nurse they had dismissed. And the one who had just been escorted back by military authority. She didn't acknowledge any of it. Didn't slow. Didn't engage. Because none of it mattered. What mattered was the patient. She stepped into the ICU. The room was quiet. Stable. Controlled. The man in the bed was awake now. Not fully recovered. But present. Aware. Dangerous, even like this. You came back, he said. He adjusted his monitor. I work here. A faint smirk. Do? Emma didn't answer. Because the truth was, she wasn't sure anymore. Footsteps approached behind her. Not hurry. Not uncertain. Deliberate. Emma didn't turn. She already knew who it was. The man in the suit. He entered without announcement, followed by two others. And this time, they weren't hiding it. Dr. Hale, the man said calmly. The administrator stiffened. Yes, of course, we've been cooperating fully. Have you? The question wasn't loud, but it cut. Hale swallowed. We acted according to hospital policy. You terminated a nurse, the man interrupted, for preventing the death of a high-value military asset. Silence. How it? Unavoidable. Hale's composure cracked. We didn't have all the information. No, the man said, you didn't. It was. But she did. Every eye in the room shifted to Emma. She didn't move. Didn't react. Didn't claim anything. Because she never had. The chief surgeon stepped forward, trying to recover ground. With all due respect, Dr. Lanning said, this is being exaggerated. The patient presented with symptoms consistent with. Say it, the man in the suit said. Lanning hesitated. Sepsis. And what was it? Lanning didn't answer. Because he couldn't. Exposure, the man continued, non-conventional, weaponized. The word landed like a shockwave. Weaponized. Sodomy. This wasn't a hospital error. This was something else entirely. Lanning's voice dropped. How would she know that? That question lingered. Not accusing. Not defensive. Yes. Unavoidable. The man in the suit turned slightly. Not toward Emma, but toward the others. As of this morning, he said, Emma's service record has been partially declassified. A ripple moved through the room. Confusion. Here. Service record, Hale repeated. The man nodded. She is not a rookie nurse. Oh, wait. She is a former Tier 1 field medic attached to Joint Special Operations. Silence. Absolute. Lanning blinked. Hale's face drained of color. Someone in the back whispered. That's not possible. But it was. The man continued. Multiple deployments, classified theaters, advanced trauma specialization under combat conditions. Each word stripped away another layer of assumption. She has performed procedures in environments where your protocols don't apply, he added calmly. And where hesitation kills. No one spoke. Because no one could. Emma stood still. Unmoved. Unchanged. Because none of this was new to her. Only to them. The man in the suit stepped closer. The patient in this room, he said, is alive because she recognized what none of you did. His gaze swept across the staff. Mayor. Precise. You followed policy. Pause. She followed reality. Hale's voice trembled. You're saying we were negligent. I'm saying, the man replied, you chose hierarchy over judgment. That landed harder. Because it was true. Lanning tried again. Desperate now. But she broke protocol. Yes, the man said. And if she hadn't? Silence. The answer hung in the air. Unspoken. Obvious. That? The patient shifted slightly in the bed, drawing attention back to himself. His voice was weak, but steady. They tried to move me, he said. His eyes locked onto Hale. They almost killed me doing it. Hale couldn't hold his gaze. Couldn't respond. Couldn't defend it. Because there was no defense left. The room had turned. Completely. Emma adjusted the Roman 4 line again. Still not engaging. Still not claiming anything. Because she didn't need to. Her actions had already spoken. The truth didn't require her voice. The man in the suit straightened. This hospital will be reviewed, he said. Policies, leadership, decision-making structures. Hale swallowed hard. That won't be necessary. It already is. Final. Irreversible. The man turned to Emma. For the first time. Directly. You have options, he said. She met his gaze. Unblenching. Do I? Ness? A pause. You can return to service. The room tensed again. Different this time. Not fear. Expectation. You can operate under protection, he continued. Or you can walk away. Silence. Everyone waited. For her answer. For the reveal. For the moment she would finally claim what she was. Emma didn't rush. Didn't react emotionally. She looked at the patient. At the room. At the people who had doubted her. And the ones who now understood. She spoke. I'm a nurse. Simple. Uncomplicated. True. The man studied her. You're more than that. Emma shook her head slightly. No. That's enough. The answer settled over the room. Not dramatic. Not defiant. Yes. Final. The man in the suit nodded once. Very well. And just like that. The moment passed. Not with applause. Not with recognition. But with something quieter. Respect. Heard. Not demanded. As the officials left, the room slowly began to breathe again. People moved. Voices returned. But something had changed permanently. The illusion. That title's defined capability. Was gone. Emma finished her checks. Turned to leave. Emma. She paused. The patient. Watching her. You always disappear after, he said. Emma considered that. Not this time. She walked out. Back into the hallway. Back into the noise. Back into the place where no one had seen her before. But now. I did. And somewhere beyond the hospital. The story continued to spread. Not as gossip. Not as rumor. But as something else. A reminder. That the most dangerous mistake is underestimating the person who doesn't need recognition to be extraordinary. The noise didn't disappear. It never does. It just changes. By the end of the week, Mercy General was still standing, still functioning, still treating patients. But it wasn't the same place. It couldn't be. Because once a truth like that surfaces, it doesn't go back under. The board met behind closed doors. Long hours. Long discussions. Long overdue questions. Policies were reviewed. Decisions were dissected. And names started to carry consequences. Administrator Hale didn't return to his office after that day. No announcement. No speech. Just an absence that spoke louder than anything he could have said. Dr. Lanning remained. But not unchanged. His confidence had shifted into something quieter. More careful. He read charts longer now. Listened more. Spoke less. Because for the first time in years, he had been wrong. And it had almost cost a life. The hospital adjusted. Slowly. Subtly. But undeniably. Nurses were heard differently. Questions weren't dismissed as quickly. And when Emma walked through the halls, people didn't move out of her way out of fear anymore. They did it out of respect. The kind that doesn't need explanation. Emma returned to her routine. If it could still be called that. Same shifts. Same scrubs. Same quiet presence moving from room to room. No announcement. No ceremony. No title change. Plus, were patient after patient. Chart after chart. Life after life. She didn't bring up what had happened. Didn't correct the rumors. Didn't confirm the truth. Because none of it mattered in the moment someone needed help. And that's where she lived. In the moment. The patient was transferred days later. Quietly. No helicopters. No spectacle. Just a secure medical transport leaving before sunrise. He was stable. Alive. Because she had been there. Before he left, he asked to see her. Emma stepped into the room. Same as always. How? Composed. You're leaving, she said. He nodded. No. Pause. They're going to bury this, he added. Not completely, Emma replied. People saw enough. He studied her. You could have taken the offer. She didn't ask which one. She knew. You didn't, he said. No. Why? Emma considered that. Then answered simply. Because someone has to stay. Okay. He nodded slowly. Understanding. Not agreement. But respect. You always did that, he said. Stayed when it mattered. Emma didn't respond. Because that wasn't something she claimed. It was something she did. He extended his hand. She took it. Fur. Steady. Then let go. Try not to come back like this, she said. A faint grin. No promises. And then, he was gone. Weeks pass. The story faded from headlines. Replaced by newer things. Faster things. Louder things. But inside the hospital, it didn't fade. Not really. It became part of the walls. Part of the culture. Part of the way people thought. Before they dismissed someone. Before they assumed. Before they decided they already knew everything. One evening, near the end of a long shift, Emma stood by the window overlooking the same stretch of road. The same place where everything had shifted. Traffic moved like nothing had happened. Cars passed. People walked. Life continued. As if the sky had never broken open. As if 2 helicopters had never landed in the middle of the road. As if a nurse hadn't been fired and then brought back to save a life no one else understood. A younger nurse approached her. Hesitant. Curious. Can I ask you something? She said. And Matt didn't turn. You just did. A small, nervous smile. Why didn't you tell them? Tell them what? Who you were. And Matt finally looked at her. Not annoyed. Not dismissive. Just honest. Because it wouldn't have helped. The nurse frowned. But they would have listened. Maybe, Emma said. Or maybe they would have argued differently. At pause. People don't learn from authority, she added quietly. They learn from consequences. The nurse absorbed that. Slowly. Then nodded. Thank you, she said. Emma turned back to the window. You're welcome. The sun dipped lower. Light shifting across the glass. The world moving forward. Always forward. Emma stayed there a moment longer. Not thinking about the past. Not worrying about what might come next. Plus? What? Because that was where she was strongest. Not in what she had been. Not in what others thought she was. But in what she chose. Every single day. To show up. To act. To save lives. Without needing anyone to understand how. Somewhere out there, people would keep underestimating others. It's human. It happens. But stories like this, they leave something behind. A hesitation. A second thought. A question. What if I'm wrong? What if the quietest person in the room is the one who knows exactly what to do? Because sometimes, the most powerful person isn't the one giving orders, or wearing rank, or standing in the spotlight. Sometimes, it's the one walking home in the rain, carrying a cardboard box, with nothing left, except the ability to do what others can't. And when the moment comes, that's the person everything depends on. If this story made you think differently about the people you pass every day, then don't ignore that feeling. Because the world doesn't just need more heroes. It needs more people who recognize them. Before it's too late. Like, subscribe, and comment what you would have done.